Welcome everyone. Today is session 17 of our GLP sessions. And as always, it is the things that we discussed from Ram's book of Good Living Practices. And last time we saw three rules that he told us to practice for this month. And I'm hoping that all of us practiced it. I sure tried my best. And there were times when it was a little, forgot about it or it was not possible, but I kept going forward. I was not hard on myself, but I kept going forward. Uh, just celebrating the successes I had, which was more than the failures, which is, a passing grade. So, but today what we are going to do is Ram is going to have three other practical rules that we can follow. And so without much further ado, Ram, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Radhika. Thanks everybody for coming to today's session. Sorry for the last minute glitches, but I'm glad we are all here. And today's, as Radhika mentioned, today's the 17th session. And as we all know, good living practices are tools or interventions that keep the body, mind, and emotions in sync 24/7 in order for all of us to experience optimal health. And in the last 16 sessions, we saw several different ways to bring that optimal health in our own selves. So let me start sharing the slides and recapitulate what we discussed so far. All right. And then we'll go ahead and talk about today's session. So let me share the screen here. All right. I hope you can all see it. So in the past 16 sessions, we talked about several different ways to bring in that the optimal things or the tools, all right, in order to achieve optimal health. We saw in the first few sessions good eating practices to achieve optimal health. Later, we talked about the benefits of physical exercise and also mental training exercises for improving immunity at all three levels of individuality. I then spoke about the importance of selfless service, karma yoga or seva, to bring harmony to the body, mind, and spirit, or to the emotions. And then we talked about bringing in harmonious impressions to the 5 portals of gateways of our body, the sense of sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. We discussed the importance of fasting, and I mentioned about how it brings harmony to the body, mind, and emotions. All right. And then we discussed the importance of sleep, and I told you about how sleep is extremely important in improving the immunity at all 3 levels of body, mind, and emotions. And then we talked about the consequences of having high blood sugar, elevated blood sugar. And Chandarji actually provided us fantastic details about his journey and how he managed to, control the levels of blood sugar. I spoke about negativity or emotions that have that serve as an obstacle to our own health. And I spoke about the importance of why we should try to bring down negativity as it influences mind, body, and emotions. We discussed about the importance of meal timings and eating environment. I spoke about the brain-colon nexus and the importance of having a daily bowel movement. And last month, what we did is we started to put all this together by having 3 practical tools or tips that I talked about, which we thought will incorporate as a group for that period of, for the entire period of the month of March. And I spoke about 3 tools. I spoke about chewing, I spoke about sleep, and I spoke about contentment. Chewing was the physical aspect, and I gave the outcome measure as weight. You could have checked your weight before starting the program, and then, by a month later and see if there's any change in your weight. And then I talked about sleep as an important mental tool, and I gave the outcome measure as a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being dullness and 10 being optimism, and then for you to record as to where you were in your scale of dull to optimism. And then you talk about at the emotional level, I gave the tool of contentment, or being happy or being satisfied. And we talked about the outcome measure being a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being miserable and 10 being smiling, because one way to express our contentment is to smile. All right, so we gave these 3 tips. And before I go with today's tips, I'm going to add 3 more tips for today for us to practice for the month of April. But before I go there, I would like for any one of you, or anybody who wants to come forward and share his or her experience about the last 3 tools that we talked about: chewing, sleep, and contentment. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us about your experience. Tell us about what were your drawbacks. Tell us about what were the impediments, or tell us about whether you experienced benefits from all this. Okay, even if it was for a few days, as Radhika mentioned, there are times when we can do it successfully. I was able to, both Padma and I were able to, we were actually consciously being practicing this. We made sure that, we were, even though we were eating together, we tried not to speak. We were chewing, we were counting our chews. And in fact, the first few days, Padma actually experienced a little bit of some distress and pain in her mouth, even though we thought we were chewing our food well. So that is a natural process, because what happens is even though we say we are able to chew our food, we don't chew it properly to that extent where it becomes of a soupy consistency. So that's very important, that you should achieve that. All right. And yeah, if you've not been doing that, then there are the first few days, maybe you would have experienced some pain in the jaw muscles, but then, as you keep doing it, you overcome that. Okay. And it's extremely good. In fact, evidence-based research studies have shown that people who have, as we age, we have issues with the mandibular joint or the TMJ, pain in the mouth. Okay. Even when you open your mouth, when you yawn, in all these conditions, or when you're eating your food, you have this severe pain. It's a part of a natural aging process. And the reason being that these muscles get sort of, they become rigid. And the only way, if you don't want to take tablets or pills or steroids, then the only natural way to sustain or to provide flexibility to the jaw muscles or to strengthen them is to properly chew your food consciously for a count of 35 to 40, whatever it takes. So having said all that, I would like for you all to come to us, to unmute yourself and tell us about your experiences. And after that, I'll talk about 3 more tools for this month, because from next month onwards, both Radhika and we have selected some more topics, very interesting topics. We won't be giving you, it's practical tools as well. But before we go to that, we would like for you to let us know if you have anything to tell us. All right, so whoever is willing to tell us, please raise your hand, unmute yourself, and let us know.
And please, it is important that you share it, because as a group, we are all together, and as a group, we want to, progress. That is our motivation. It's not just a one-way street where both just Ram and I talk and you listen. We want to hear from you. And so that, if there is anything that you need, then Ram is able to guide you in that. And then, the question is for us to move forward. So please share your experiences. It does not matter if it is good or bad. Both are okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to share, out of the 3, I practiced the chewing aspect, and sleep, I would fall asleep even without the contentment thing. So those 2, I haven't much paid attention, but the chewing was really good to remember each time I sat down for a meal, that to pay attention. That helped me.
Okay, that's good to know.
Good.
So Jyotsna ji, when you say it helped you, can you tell us a little more details about what exactly you saw?
Because earlier, I would not pay attention how much I ate, but this one, it helped me guide, that, okay, now I'm feeling, okay, there's no reason to, gulp down the food. Take your time. I would take cognizance of the fact that I'm only going to eat when I have the time instead of, walking around or doing things. So it helped me sit down at a place. So in all the hectic day, it would also make me focus, okay, this is my time to, and I would also gauge, oh, I finished it in 8 minutes, not good. I got to take longer. Then I would, do that.
Nice, very good.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is, I would encourage everybody to continue this, even though
Yes, that's what I plan to do.
right, this month, even though we'll be talking about 3 new tools, the thing is we continue to incorporate the last 3 tools from the last month, and we'll add it to the present day. I mean, this month's tools, in order to sustain those changes. And as you keep doing it, notice, because evidence-based studies have clearly shown that one way to naturally lose, especially for people who are very conscious about weight loss, all right, and who are trying their level best to lose weight, chewing has become one of the most important natural ways to lose weight. What happens is, as you keep chewing, as I said earlier, as you keep chewing, there are these signals that go from the brain to the gut, because what happens is the more you chew, you are going to liberate or generate a lot of saliva, and the combination of the saliva with the food enters the gut, all right, and then what happens is within 4 to 5 morsels of food, you start feeling full. And so what happens is, even though you have kept, like for example, the other day I was telling, both Padma and I were surprised. We had like 2 breads with us, 2 chapatis with us, and we ended up eating only 1 chapati and we felt full. And this was not only our thing. This has been the response of a lot of the subjective measurements when they did in the evidence-based studies, where people noted that they were eating far less than what they would eat before. And so it became a natural way to lose weight. You may not see a significant weight loss within a month after doing this, but in 2 to 3 months, you will notice that you have lost about 2 to 3 pounds. And imagine if you're doing that for a period of 6 to 8 months, it's a gradual fall. And that's what we want, my friends. We don't want to lose drastically our weight and then once again peak up. We want to lose gradually, because then what happens is that gradual loss will never be reversed. It will remain as such. So something for you to think about. Great. Anybody else wants to talk about their experiences?
There was a time, there were a few things because of work related pressures and everything. I had trouble sleeping, Ram. And so used some of those meditative practices. Usually what I do is, at that time, I will take out my phone and read on the Kindle. And, the light is, used to actually keep me awake a little bit more than usual. So what I tried to do at that time was, use the meditative practices and set some shlokas or something like that, just to calm my mind down, and found that I was able to, fall asleep. It took me a while, but I was able to fall asleep without that stimulation of reading or my phone. So nice. That was a good thing that I was able to practice.
Yeah, very good. I think that's a great suggestion, because what happens is, this is what even in evidence-based studies and sleep, doctors will tell you. What they'll tell you is, especially for people who have a hard time sleeping, what they say is 1 hour prior to your bedtime, or even in fact 2 hours prior to your bedtime, they tell you to get off of all what we call the stimulatory activities. Stimulatory activities could be either watching a movie, especially a violent movie, or watching something that is too active, too violent, too active, or any of those thought processes, any of those processes or any of those activities that create a lot of thought process in your brain. Because during the sleep time, so when the brain sends signals saying that, just like eating, I talked about the clogged genes, right? In the same way, we have sleep genes in our body. And those, when the sleep genes get activated, usually that happens when the sun is at its lowest ebb. So, around 7:30, 8 in the night. And that's the time when the sun goes down, the brain responds to that by sending out the signals called the sleep signals. And one of the things that happens is, with the sleep signals, is the release of a hormone called melatonin. Okay, and melatonin gets released in the brain only when there's darkness. Okay, and when there's silence. It's so interesting. The minute you switch on the lights, the minute you switch on the TV, the minute you switch on, if you're watching anything under a narrowed zone of light, all these, what will happen is they'll depress the release of melatonin.
Right.
The minute melatonin gets depressed, you will have a hard time sleeping. Sleep coincides with the peak of melatonin, and that happens only when there's darkness or when there's less of a thought process. The minute you have a lot of thought process going in the brain, so analysis, logic, thinking a lot, working, or creating new programs, or doing a lot of busy work on the computer, all these will depress the levels of melatonin. And so that's the reason why towards the end of the night, when you've done all these activities, you have a hard time sleeping. So
yeah,
sleep researchers will always tell that 1 hour prior to bedtime, or maybe 2 hours better prior to bedtime, try to sort of calm down or slow down your activities and try to do something that is less inhibitory for the release of melatonin. Okay, all right. So anybody else wants to say anything else? If not, we'll go for today's 3 topics. We'll wait for a couple of seconds if anybody wants to unmute and talk about their experiences. No? All right. I mean, you can always talk about it once we finish today's topic as well. All right. Okay. So with that, let me go ahead and start with today's topic. And today's topic once again will cover 3 tools. Okay. And today's topic for the physical tool, I'm going to be talking about dinner and sleep timings, which is extremely important. Okay. So we talked about chewing, right? So now we'll talk about adding on one more physical tool to the month of April. And here we're talking about dinner and sleep timings. Okay. What sleep researchers have discovered is for melatonin, as I talked about melatonin, for melatonin to be released to the peak, which will induce the sleep phenomenon, okay, the stomach has to be sort of empty. Okay, so it has to be light, because both the gut and the brain cannot act at the same time. So for the brain to be active, in order to release melatonin, the stomach has to stop, not exactly stop digestion, but it has to go into a passive phase of digestion. Okay, so that's the reason why sleep researchers say that, and this is, Ayurveda had talked about this several thousands of years ago, that it is very important that we give a 3-hour gap between dinner and sleep. Okay, in order to ensure that we have a proper, good quality sleep. That's one reason. That's one thing. The second thing is, Ayurveda also recommends that you sleep not very late in the night, but try to sleep early. So, those days they were saying the minute the sun goes down, within an hour of that, you go to sleep. But now what sleep researchers have discovered is that even, let's say, if you have your dinner by 7 p.m., right? Try to have your sleep by 10 or 10:30. So you're not only giving a 3-hour gap, okay, between your dinner and sleep, but you're ensuring that you start going to sleep around 10:30 or 11, which is an optimal time to go to sleep. Because this 3-hour gap between dinner and sleep is what stimulates immunity at all 3 levels of our individuality: body, mind, and emotions. So for example, this month, even if you have an erratic breakfast or lunch, okay, let's say it's all over the place, don't worry about it. Try to have your dinner between 7 and 7:30 p.m. Okay, and then keep a minimum of 3-hour gap between your supper and sleep. So let's say if you have a dinner by 7 p.m., try to aim to go to sleep by maximum by 10, 10:30 or 11 p.m. Okay, which means that in that 3-hour window, you're not supposed to eat anything, number 1. Number 2, you're not supposed to eat anything after your bedtime either, just before you go to bedtime. Okay, so try to avoid all caloric food and beverages, okay, until the next day morning. Now, here is where another aspect of timings is very important. Next day morning, you'll ask, when should I break my fast? Both sleep medicine research as well as Ayurveda and yoga have talked about this in a great detail. What they have said is you need to give a minimum of 12-hour window for the brain and the gut to be very active, which means that they should not be receiving any food at that time. So two things happen. When the gut does not receive any food for a period of 12 hours, okay, what happens is the gut tries to reset itself for the next day's program. Okay, that's number one. Number two, at the level of the brain, what happens is a lot of things are happening. Physiology is all changing. So when you give a 12-hour window of fasting, okay, what happens is the brain, because it cannot function without having energy, it switches over from glucose to fat metabolism, okay, because it needs energy constantly. So when it starts chewing up the fats for its energy purposes, what happens is the metabolic release of fatty acids, what we call, these are the breakdown products of fats. Those are extremely good for the brain and for the gut and for the entire body itself. There are 3 of those fatty acids. I don't want to go into the chemistry of them, but they are extremely important. They do everything that is beneficial for our entire body. They improve the immunity, okay? They trigger good inflammation that is necessary for defense purposes. They remove all the trash that has accumulated in the last 24 hours. Trash both in the physical body as well as in the brain, okay? That's the time when the trash gets removed. There is a lymphatic activity in the brain that removes the trash, and this lymphatic activity, think about it as the trash people coming to collect the trash. So those trash people, or that activity, becomes very active around night time when you go to sleep, okay, at the time when there's a fasting level of 12 hours. So what happens is all the junk that you have accumulated in the brain, physical junk as well as mental junk, okay, all that get trashed off. And then finally, what happens is it's during this 12-hour window that a lot of injuries that we have accumulated, physical injuries as well as mental injuries, those get repaired when you give the 12-hour window of fasting. Okay, so a lot of things happens during this fasting period. It's extremely important. Now again, take this with a grain of salt, because especially for people who are diabetics, who have issues controlling the blood sugar, they may not go for 12-hour fast if they can manage. If they cannot manage, sorry. If they can manage, that's fine. But if they cannot manage, then you will have to break your fast around 6 in the morning or maybe 5 in the morning. But otherwise, if your blood sugar levels are regulated and if you don't have issues with that, then try to maintain a window of 12 hours to 14 hours of fasting window between your dinner and the next day breakfast. Okay, so try that. So this month, we are going to have our dinner early. We're going to keep a 3-hour fast between our dinner and our sleep before we go to sleep. And we'll continue the fast for the next day morning until 8 or 8:30 in the morning. That's when you can break your fast. Okay. If you can go a little longer, all the more better. But I wouldn't want, because there are some faddists or foodists that will go on for 18 hours. Okay. That is too an extreme. Okay. We don't want to go there. Okay. 12 to 15 hours is the best window. Okay, and that's the time when you get all the benefits. So the benefits that you get for the 12 to 15 hours is the same kind of benefits you get for 18 hours. Okay, but don't starve yourself. Try to maintain a 12 to 15 hours. Okay, and now what you can do is, so a combination of chewing from the past month and combining it with today's timings of the meal, dinner time, and the fasting period of 12 hours. This is going to be a super program for you to have your weight measurements. Okay. So now you start, if you have a weight machine at home, start weighing yourself, not every day, but maybe every 2 weeks. And notice if the combination of chewing and this process of meal timings is really helping you. And believe me, not from me, even if you don't want to listen to me, evidence-based studies have shown that this combination is a very powerful, natural way, not just to lose weight, but to incorporate all the great benefits that come with this. Okay. And which ensures optimal immunity, right? So then, I think I went forward much forward in terms of my slides. So we talked about the timings of 3 hours between dinner and sleep, and we talked about gentle fasting. Okay, so I gave you the topic of 3 hours of fast between dinner and sleep, and continuing that fast till next day for a period of 12 hours. Okay. And then you can measure, the outcome measure would be body weight. And remember, even though this is a physical aspect of eating and fasting is a physical aspect, but these effects are seen not just in the physical body in terms of weight loss, it also helps with your alertness in the mind. A lot of people have mentioned this. So subjective response, when researchers did this, the subjective response, okay, from those people who went on the clinical trial showed the benefits not just at the level of weight measurements, but they all said they were very alert at the level of mind itself. They were more positive, so it affects the emotions as well. And they were very alert, so they didn't experience brain fog. They were more alert. They were able to commute the traffic well. They were able to deal with all their work issues very easily. Okay, so outcome measure can be alertness and body weight in terms of how you're doing with your dinner timings and with your fast timings. Okay, so that's the the fasting, the physical aspect of 3-hour fast, but dinner and sleep would be the physical tool, and the gentle fasting of 12 hours fast between your dinner and next day morning breakfast would be your mental tool. And that's the reason why I coupled the two, and I said your outcome measure would be both body weight and alertness. Alertness would be at the level of the mind. How do you feel at the level of the mind? Okay, do you feel more ease? Do you feel more satisfied? Do you feel more alert? Do you feel that there's less of brain fog? Do you feel less confusion? Because a lot of people, especially people who are 40 and above, the first thing that they say when we get up in the morning, unless we have a cup of coffee, our minds don't work. We feel that fogginess. Okay. You don't need coffee as a stimulant. You can use this as a stimulant, keeping a 12-hour fast as a natural way to overcome the brain fog. All right. And then at the level of emotions, the third topic or the third tool that we're going to give today for the month of April that you can practice is gratitude. Okay. And so how do we express gratitude? Being thankful and appreciative of all the virtues that we have. Superb emotional tool. Okay. And according to yoga philosophy and ayurveda, gratitude, contentment was our last month's tool. Gratitude and contentment, they follow each other. Okay. An attitude of gratitude, interesting, attitude of gratitude helps us to live life with a greater sense of well-being. Even if we are overcome with difficulties and disappointments, having that gratitude of being appreciative or being thankful actually overcomes those difficulties and disappointments. And cultivating this virtue, okay, benefits an individual because evidence-based research studies have shown that expressing a gratitude actually causes the release of what we call the feel-good neurochemicals. Oxytocin, noradrenaline, okay, two main important hormones, it gets released. So the minute it gets released, you feel that sense of gratification. And gratification comes with true happiness, contentment, and peace. And that's the reason, because what happens is, if every day you express this, you're going to have a good levels of oxytocin and noradrenaline in your system. Which means that these hormones not only provide you that smiling effect, but also improves your immune system. It improves your relationship, it improves your happiness, it improves your levels of optimism. And because those are the feel-good neurochemicals, at the same time, what happens is, because they are up, all the things that are involved with the negativity, those hormones are not there. And so you don't see dissatisfaction, you don't feel any displeasure, you won't find any unhappiness. And this was mentioned in the Ayurveda and Yoga scriptures, and now we have evidence-based studies to support this. What people have shown, these are so many research studies have shown that when you have the brain activity of subjects who have been told to practice gratitude, they did MRI studies. Along with the release of the feel-good neurochemicals, what they showed is that there are certain regions in the brain called the reward systems. Okay, the reward systems get activated or they get lighted up on the MRI. It's called functional MRI studies. Okay, the same regions get activated or they get lighted up when you take stimulants like Prozac. Okay, the problem with Prozac is it doesn't sustain for long. Those same regions that have got lighted up, they are light up for a few minutes and then they come down. Whereas people who express gratitude, they have shown with them that in these subjects that those areas of the brain that lighted up, they light it up for several hours, for several days. And so what happens is the effects of Prozac is not only short limited, but it comes with a lot of side effects, because imagine taking Prozac on a longer time basis. It does a lot of havoc to the brain. On the other hand, if you continue to express gratitude on a regular basis, you're not only sustaining the levels of these feel-good neurochemicals, but you're also affecting those areas that are involved with that positive mechanism. So there are several ways to express your gratitude. Okay. And in our Hindu scriptures, we have so many ways. We say Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We have the Shanti mantras of all kinds, all right, to express gratitude, not only to our own selves, but these Shanti mantras tell us to express gratitude to our friends, our loved ones, our colleagues, even non-animate objects, the plants, the animals, the flowers, the birds, the stones, the universe, the earth itself, the waters, the universe, the stars, the planets. And so, you can, one way to express gratitude, okay, is, and I mentioned this in the book also, one way to, when we talk about sleep, right, and I said about how to calm down. So one way to calm down is to just, as Radhika mentioned, one way to calm down is to bring down your violent or the active thoughts, okay, quieten your mind and just say one Shanti mantra. Even if you don't have anything, even if you don't know any Shanti mantra, just say, may there be peace all around. Or the most simplest mantra that you can recite, which all of us have uttered or said when we were young, and it goes on. Okay, Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu, or Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So if you say that Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu 3 times, 6 times, 9 times, whatever it is, not only brings peace to your own self, your mind is quietened, and guess what? You are sending that gratification, that mantra to the entire outside world. You can do that for a period of 30 days for the next month of April. And then your outcome scale will be 1 to 10, miserable to smiling, and see where you are in your records. And believe me, it will work because it has worked for others. People have done evidence-based studies, and if you need supportive evidence, let me know. I can send you the PDFs. People, they didn't say these mantras, but they did other forms of what we call affirmations. And there's been a lot of excitement around those studies, because natural way of keeping your body, mind, and emotions healthy, resilient, and having optimal immunity, just naturally. All right. So those are the 3 tools that we will do for the month of April. So at the physical level, we're going to have dinner and sleep timings, and you're going to measure your weight as an outcome measure. At the level of mind, we'll do a 12-hour fasting, minimum 12-hour fasting. And the outcome measure would be a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being dullness and 10 being optimism. And at the emotional level, we'll express gratitude by doing some kind of a, whatever you can to express gratitude. Okay. Now, scale of 1 to 10, we'll have 1 with being misery, having misery, and 10 being, smiling always. So, you can do some guide on your own self. You can start checking on your own self and see how you feel. Okay. Combine it with your previous month's activities, and guess what? You're doing. It's a powerful way to achieve immunity at all 3 levels: body, mind, and emotions. Okay. And with regard to the emotional part, gratitude, where I said Shanti mantra, meditation. Okay. Next month is going to be a very, very important topic. I'm going to talk about meditation and the different kinds of meditation. Okay. Meditation is just not about sitting in a corner and closing your eyes and having a Anjali mudra and then saying something. There's more to that. Okay, and we'll talk about that. Very powerful and very interesting session. That's for next month. But for this month, this is the one that's going to be for the month of April. All right. So combine it with last month's tools, and then next month when we come, we can discuss about that aspect, about how it improve your own levels of mind, body, and emotions. All right. So let me stop at this stage. Take your questions as I'll stop the sharing, and then.
Ram, one of the things that, which stood out for me in today's session was about the gratitude, and you said be happy with yourself. And that for me is a very, very, very important aspect, because there are many times when we compare ourselves with others and feel miserable about oh, they have achieved so much or they have so much, and it affects the contentment level
Right.
of and that part of it, and I can say for sure that it was yeah, as I was growing older, that sense of self-esteem and everything, it started because I was happier with myself, and so less comparison, less this thing, that level of being happy with who I am was something which really helped my thinking, and the level of contentment, of being satisfied.
Right.
And yeah, and one thing I would like to say is when my son-in-law, actually, he taught me this. Every we would have dinner, and so at that time when we were having dinner, I would say, "Are you full? Did you eat well? Are you full?" And he would say, "Auntie, I am satisfied." And that, it was like, it was a very beautiful way of saying that I am, at a this thing where my mind and my body are happy, are content. And so every that really stood out for me, and I started saying those kind of things, like, I am satisfied, more than I'm full, or I'm this thing. It's a beautiful way of saying it.
Very good.
So I just wanted to share that.
Nice.
And and that is an important thing, especially in this world where there is so much of stress and so much of competition and everything. You do your best to the best of your capability. Other, and like what you, everybody has these qualities. Some have some qualities which are more but everybody has that, whatever level they are able to achieve. But if they're doing their best, that is good enough.
Absolutely.
You do not need to compare yourself with others.
Oh,
And the things. So yeah, so that I found that one, that was a very, very, very important point in my mind.
right. And you make a very important point. Let's not be judging our own selves and judging others. Okay?
Correct.
On the other hand, again, we keep saying this again and again in all our sessions: baby steps. Even if you don't,
Correct.
one day you may be doing very well, and second day maybe something took over and you were not able to do well. Without judging yourself, just be on the path. And you know what? The other thing, gratitude. If at all one day it doesn't happen, you can look back and say, instead of saying, oh, I didn't do at all well, it is a bad day. Instead of saying that, just say, okay, it was meant not to happen. So let's see if tomorrow I can do better. That way you're putting a positive spin to the negative events that happened, or which you were not able to do it, and then you're moving forward with it instead of feeling guilty. Because a lot of my students in the Ayurveda college and my patients, they say the same thing. They say things like, oh, we despise ourselves because we were not able to follow on your recommendations. I'll say, no, don't even say that. Don't say you despise yourself, because after all, we are humans. We are being besieged with so many things that happen on day-to-day life. We have not gone to the Himalayas. We are here with our families. We are here with our children. We are here with our work. We are here with our bosses. We are here with our day-to-day challenges. So one step, it's even a small step moving forward is a good step of progress. So
Correct.
In those terms.
And yeah, because like when I was talking, when we started the session, there were times when I was distracted. I was watching TV or something like that, and then I was following, and then suddenly I would feel, what, I'm not chewing my food. And I would this thing, and it helped me to consciously do that. And so and like you said, it was the baby steps. Even though it's like I have learned from you all these these things. I've read the book and all that, but it still, it needed me to consciously implement that and practice it.
Right.
And so, and there were, like I said, there were times when I this thing, but I learned to failure is not an option, or let me, or rather, failure should not be in your dictionary. There is no such thing as failure.
Right, right.
So you're just, you're just, yeah, sometimes you have to take a step back to leap forward. That is how it is. And so you be happy with yourself and be kind to yourself.
Right.
And that is an important thing that I would like to share with everyone. Yeah. So any other questions or anything, I can open it up to the group.
Yeah. So you can unmute yourself and raise. If you have any questions, suggestions, doubts.
Yeah, this is Sriram.
Hi, Sriram.
Hi. Yeah, I've been practicing chewing on and off last 30 days. Yeah, it's like a conscious, when you start, you be conscious. After sometimes you may get diverted and not doing, but it's happening. So that is definitely helpful in terms of proper digestion and everything. So as contentment is a part of thing going on daily basis. So that is taken to, and sleep also going at a particular time and getting up at the particular time in a day in the morning. That is also helping.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
So yeah, apart from that, whatever tools you have provided today, I've been practicing for a long time, and it is showing benefit.
Very good.
Like gentle fasting and 3 hours before sleep.
Right.
These things are yeah, and gratitude. Gratitude, I think maybe if not this session, some other session. You mentioned about Sarve Manasul.
Yes.
Yeah, Sarvesham Sastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Santir Bhavatu. That mantra I keep repeating whenever I get conscious about it.
Very good.
So that is really helpful. All these things are really helping.
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And Sriram, the good thing that you mentioned about that is, notice in all these, whatever you have mentioned here, in all these things, we are not talking about a pill. We're not talking about a tablet. We're not talking about steroids. We're not talking about anti-inflammatories. We're not talking about side effects. All we're talking about is natural ways. Okay. And then, the good thing about all this is the changes that come with it. Because it's not a pill approach, you will not see any negative side effects. And the good thing is it'll be there. It's irreversible. Whatever changes you see, it'll be there for times to come. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
apart from that, the gentle fasting also, before fasting, you mentioned to do some exercise.
Yes.
That is also we are doing. It's definitely, it makes a lot of difference.
Very good. Yeah, I didn't want to bring too many things, but yeah. So what Shriyam is mentioning about here is that one way, if you want to kickstart the benefits of the 12-hour fasting process, okay, and if you want to kickstart those benefits is, let's say you have had a 12-hour fast. Okay, it's not a tool. I'm not going to implement it now because I know too many things can confuse a person. But for those of you who wish to know a little bit more, a 12-hour fast that you do overnight, okay? So let's say you had your dinner by 7 p.m. Okay, the next day morning, 7 a.m. is 12-hour window. You have not broken your fast. The fast is still continuing. Now you want to break your fast. If you want to kickstart the benefits, what you can do is before you break your fast, you do a 30 minutes to 1 hour of physical exercise. Because what happens is the benefits that come from fasting, 12-hour fasting, those same benefits or those same neurochemicals are released when you do your physical exercise. Okay. So, and of course, even when you do neuroplasticity, training your brain, any mental exercise as well. So a combination of physical and mental exercises following your 12-hour fasting is the most beneficial way. It kickstarts the benefits. Okay, so you're producing immense amount. It's a collective way of producing immense amounts of those neurochemicals. And that's the reason, my friends, why traditionally back in India, the olden days, not now, but in the olden days, when they woke up, Okay, they did the Sandhya Vandan. Okay, they did the physical exercises. People who are near the rivers, they went to the rivers and they did not only their yoga exercises, but they also prayed. So the praying part was the mental exercise, and then the yoga was the physical exercise. Okay, and then they recited their mantras. That was a mental exercise alone. Only after that they went ahead and had their first cup of whatever, milk or coffee or whatever it is. So they were already doing that. Now, of course, we have evidence-based studies to support that notion that 12-hour fast followed by physical and mental exercise is a good way to sustain those changes. So thank you for bringing that, Sriram. Any other questions or doubts or suggestions? We didn't have any questions from the last month's thing in the group, or nobody. Even I didn't receive anything, Radhika. So I don't have any questions from that from last month as well.
Yeah, I did not even receive anything. But one thing I wanted to share was, there is one question over here from Vijaya. What about people with ADHD
What about them?
who cannot follow routines?
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially children. Children are going to have a lot of problems sustaining those changes, but adults are a little more compliant. So again, baby steps. You cannot put, especially for people with ADHD, you cannot put too many things in their plate. You have to start doing one by one, slowly and gradually. It takes a lot of time. There was a time, not now, but there was several years ago, Padma and I were going to a center where there were a lot of people with these issues, and that's what I was doing. We were incorporating every month one little change, and you're trying to follow these people for a period of 1 month and see whether they were able to follow that. Some of them did really well. If you give them just one task to follow it, they'll do it. Okay, but if you give too many tasks, then yeah, it is a problem. Younger children, and teenagers a little more less compliant, but adults will fairly be a little more open to your suggestions. It's a little tricky, definitely, but it's not a closed chapter. You can still work with
them. She also had a question on whether there should be any diet changes for ADHD. Anything that you can suggest?
That's a totally different topic. Maybe I can talk about that next time. I can use that as another topic to talk about. But yeah, there are, again, it's a little tricky to deal with it, especially if it's children.
Yeah.
I did mention in the Good Living Practices, there is one session in the chapter of brain health. I did talk about some things that you can bring in to practice for children to stabilize the number of activities that goes on in their brains. But yeah, I don't want to bring it up now. We'll talk about that topics.
Yeah, and especially it's a more specialized topic.
Right. More specialized topic, right?
Right, and this is what we are suggesting as tools is for people who who are able to encapsulate these things into their lives. Right. And incorporate it. So, but those kind of things, yes, we will. We do have.
It's interesting that this person raised Vijay, I think, raised.
Yes.
So remember one thing: as parents to ADHD kids, okay,
right?
As parents, we have to be a little more stable.
Correct.
We are going as parents, we are going all over the place to deal with our kids. So we are going all over the place. So for us to stabilize, let's incorporate these practices first in our ourselves. We get stabilized, and once we are stabilized at the level of body and mind, only then can you successfully implement one small change in your kids. So please take this into consideration, because I always tell a lot of my patients and my students, saying that my Ayurveda students, both yoga and Ayurveda students, saying that as parents, you need to first take care of yourselves first. Make sure that you're stabilized. Without that, it's very difficult to deal with kids with ADHD.
Yeah. And the thing is, you bring up a good point, because when I was a young mother at that time, whenever I was a little nervous or tense or anything like that, immediately I would see that, Sandhya, my daughter, would start crying more, or she would need my attention more. But so then she would, really be very, very clingy. But the moment I was calm,
Yes.
she would be happy playing somewhere, and she wouldn't even bother me. And I was talking to the doctor about it, and she said, your nervousness is transferring to the child. And so she senses it, and then so she thinks that something is not right. So that actually helped me to it was very difficult, especially when you have so many things that you have to take care of. But with her consciously, if she was very clingy, I would try and calm myself down, and then I would see an immediate result on her, and then I would be able to deal with whatever I'm doing, or pay attention to whatever I'm doing. So that when you were mentioning about parents, it is hard enough being a parent, and it is hard enough, but with children with these kind of needs, if the more we calm ourselves down, the better it is. So yeah, it is definitely, that is a lesson I learned as a young mother. Yes. I think Chandar had a question on eye pressure. Just a second. Do these tools help eye pressure?
Eye pressure. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, all the so the minute you bring about dietary changes, the minute you bring about fasting, the minute you bring about mental virtues, like the positive virtue that I've talked about, yes, they not only work with the body, but the minute they work at the level of the brain and the level of emotions, it's affecting every organ. Okay, so what we do is, not only do we practice this, but then along with this, we practice specifically for one for a specific reason as well, for the other organ as well. So for example, now we practice all this for the entire body, and then if you want to specifically address the eye, we bring in some more eye exercises. So whether it is eye pressures, intraocular pressure that we call about, there are things that we can do. For example, now in my book, especially in the chapter on the 5 sensory therapies, I talked about specific eye exercises that you can do along with, but of course, it's not a standalone thing. You have to do the eye exercises along with diet, along with sleep, along with meditation, because all these are going to calm down the intraocular pressure. Intraocular pressure, or what we call the blood pressure in the eyes, is very similar to the blood pressure in the heart. It responds to changes in the diet. It responds to changes in the environment. It responds to changes that we see in the entire body. And so the same affects the eyes as well. So in addition to all the dietary changes, if you do specific eye exercises, definitely, I have managed to control my intraocular pressure just through diet and through exercises. I was having several years of issues with high intraocular pressure, and I was able to manage it. So yes, definitely it's doable, and you can immediately make it out. I mean, within 6 months of following these routines, I've noticed that it drops, the pressure drops, the vision is more clearer. You don't have to worry about glaucoma. You don't have to worry about night blindness, and the changes are sustained.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For other clarification, the fasting, does that mean also no water? The breaks that you do between meals? And
no. You can definitely have water. You can definitely have herbal teas, as long as there's no sugar and there's no milk. So there should not be any caloric additions. But you can, but please don't dehydrate yourself. Have water. Have an herbal tea. You can have a mint tea. Just having some mint into the water. No add sugaring and all that. Mint tea is very good to induce sleep. Natural mint, like what you grow in your garden, you can just add some spearmint leaves.
yes, we do.
Yeah, or add some rosemary leaves, or add some lavender leaves. Great way to stimulate the sleep sensation. Natural way. No sugar, no honey, no milk, nothing. Just mint tea is very good. Yeah, you can please have water. Don't dehydrate yourself.
Thank you.
Sure.
And just a disclaimer, this is not like a magic pill or anything like that. It is something that is a recommended way for all of you to incorporate in your life so that you feel more balanced, and that just to come to that level of balance, because our life will be like a pendulum always, but to achieve that balance these are some of the tools that are possible for you to incorporate.
Right.
And I think there was one more chat on here from Vijaya.
Okay.
And so she said, thank you for your clarifications. I think we are having more ADHD due to current environment and also genetic. Discussing about ADHD at length and best practices to manage it as a separate topic would be great. Thank you for your time and selfless service. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there is a component of environment. In fact, one of the main components for ADHD is considered to be environment. And of course, there are other factors as well. Sure, definitely, we'll bring it up as a separate topic.
Yes. So, any other questions? Okay.
All right.
So, looks like
yeah.
Oh, what can we do for throat pain, eyes pain, pain around eyes, etc. for small kid?
Yeah. Again, I mean, if you look, I think if you go back to session number 10 or 11, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we clearly talked about the sense of vision.
Yes.
And of course, I talked about the mouth and the throat aspects as well. So maybe you can go and watch the recording. There are specific things that we discussed about. And of course, the book that Radhika just showed, the book that that I published, it has an entire section on practices that you can do, and some of these practices are you can implement that easily on children. Like, for example, oil pulling is something which is extremely important.
Yes.
For throat issues, and easily, I mean, even a child can do it if you can show them correctly how to do it. The child also will be able to do that. Very good way, gargling your mouth. So just look at those tips, and try to inculcate those. And if you are not being able to, I mean, if you are still having issues with that, check the recording, and if you still have issues, let us know, and we'll talk about that again in the future topic. But yeah, there are a lot of tips, a lot of tools that we talked in the past, and of course in the book also has it, and you can implement that easily on a child as well.
Right. So if there are no other questions, we will wrap up this session. Okay. And thank you very much, Ram, as always. Thank you very much for your knowledge and wisdom. We really benefit from that. And stay tuned, everyone, for future sessions. We have many topics that we are going to be covering. And all this, if you are able to, please support our North Bay Hindu Center. And you can go, and if you wish to donate, you can go to northbaytemple.org and use the donate button to donate it. Any amount is welcome. And if you have any questions, please send an email to Ram or share in the WhatsApp group, or you can send an email to contact us at northbaytemple.org. And we will be, we want to hear from you. We definitely want to hear from you, how you're benefiting. So I don't want to push away anyone, but please be prepared next time to share some of your experiences, because we want to know how much you are benefiting from this, or if you're not benefiting from this, we want to see, like, what else can we do to help you.
Right.
So that is the main aspect of these kind of sessions. We want to share and do like a group therapy, so that everyone benefits and everyone is having the good results that are from these practices that we envision should be incorporated in your practices. And stay tuned. And as for children's sessions, we are working on those. Specifically targeted towards children. And so if you have any specific questions that you want to ask, please send it to us so that we can prepare a program that way, and and have that catering mainly to young ones, the young teenagers up to, till they become an adult. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you, Ram. See you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.